Today we're talking about The Accountant 2. If you want a quick summary of my thoughts on the movie, it's kind of a middle-of-the-road action film. It's trying to be a comedy. It's okay. I don't think it's something you need to rush to the theater to see. Maybe if you catch it on streaming, you might enjoy it for the fun popcorn movie that it is, but nothing spectacular. I just wanted to throw that out there to respect your time, but if you want to stick around, I'll give you a full breakdown of what I thought of The Accountant 2. Also, if you're heading out, please give me a like, a comment, anything. It really helps my channel. I'm really, really tiny, so thank you so much. All right, let's talk about The Accountant 2. I had actually not seen the original movie, and my buddy wanted to go check this one out, so I watched it. Actually, funny enough, the night before we went to go see the sequel. I thought it was okay. It was from 2016. It was this action movie with Ben Affleck, but the big twist of the film was that his character was autistic. I actually have quite a few autistic people in my life, and I watched the film with one of them, and they happened to enjoy it quite a bit. They enjoyed the way that the character was portrayed. They thought that the way they handled autism was actually pretty spot on, and they felt a connection to the character with some of the actions and the way that they handled certain situations. Like there's a scene where he's sitting down to eat lunch, and this character, she's like an accountant or something at the firm that he's investigating. She sits down and she's trying to have a conversation to be buddy-buddy with them, and he's just like not understanding that interaction at all. And the person I was watching with was like, yes, that happens to me at work sometimes. It's very awkward. Like, wonderful. So I thought they did a good job with that, and I also thought relationship between him and his brother was handled really well. Like those two actors, John Bernthal plays the Punisher, and then obviously we know Ben Affleck played a bunch of characters, Daredevil, Batman, stuff like that. They had good chemistry together. And who doesn't love John Lithgow? He played the villain. He was a Trinity killer, if y'all watched Dexter. But it wasn't a movie that I was like, man, I really wish I saw this in the theater. It was actually kind of funny that they even billed it as an action film, because it was more of a, I don't know, just a regular like thriller movie, and then there's happened to be some action pieces in it. Though I will say, the sequel kind of ramps that up quite a bit. So let's talk about The Accountant 2, because that's what we're here for. So The Accountant 2 is kind of about J.K. Simmons' character from the first movie. I didn't mention him, but he works for this like U.S. Treasury Department sort of offset that is in charge of finding things. I don't know, it wasn't super clear. It's called like FinTech or FinCentral or something like that. Anyway, his whole thing is that at some point he encountered the accountant, and he wanted to find the guy in the first movie. And then this woman kept like calling him and giving him tips. And so this girl who was in the first movie takes over for him because he retires. Now she's running the operation, and he's still kind of being a private eye on the side. So he's looking for this family from El Salvador, and he meets up with this woman who is supposed to be this like assassin lady, but she also, I guess, can find people, and he's trying to hire her to find this family. But these goons show up and they take him out, and he basically writes "find the accountant" on his arm. So when his old partner, the girl who took over for him, invited to the morgue to look at his body, she sees that and she goes, oh, I gotta reach out to this guy, Christian Wolf. I mean, he doesn't really have a name. He just keeps naming himself after different mathematicians to hide his identity. That's kind of his shtick. She has this woman that calls her, this British lady. And in the first movie, we revealed that this lady was like the woman in the chair for the accountant, but she was so autistic that she was nonverbal. She couldn't speak, but she was still very intelligent. So she would type things out on the computer, and then it would like kind of AI voice it out to Ben Affleck's character, or Christian Wolf. So I guess this lady's been like calling the Treasury woman and giving her tips consistently, but now she needs to get a hold of Christian Wolf. So she gets a hold of him and basically wants him to help figure out what happened. So that's what the movie's about. As I'm sure if you've seen the trailer, you'd see that John Bernthal's all over it. It's also about reconnecting with his brother, which didn't really happen so much in the first movie. They get in a little bit of a fight, they have a conversation, and then it's hinted at that they're going to go meet for lunch or something like that. But in this movie, you find out that never happened. It's been in real time 8 years, which I think is how long it was since the last movie. Maybe my brain's not remembering that math correctly. I am not an accountant. So they meet up and you get a little bit of like buddy cop action. So I guess his brother's also an assassin or something like that. Their dad was a real piece of work. You get to learn all about that in the first movie. And I think that brings me to my biggest problem with this film, is I don't know that he was necessary to the plot. Like the first movie kind of tied in with his personal life, so it like made sense that he was there. And in this movie, the only thing really driving him towards the final goal is, well, there's two things. Number one, he always wants to finish the job. So once he starts something, he has to finish it, which they established in the first movie. But number two, And this is kind of a funny one. He sees a picture of this little kid, and he can tell from the photo that the kid's autistic. So he has to rescue him, which I don't know about that one. That's really stretching the premise a little bit for me. I'm gonna be a butt and I'm gonna spoil the movie. So if you don't wanna be spoiled, fast forward to this timestamp I'm putting on the screen right now and you won't be spoiled. But if you don't care, you're gonna watch it, doesn't bother you, then stick around, okay? Spoilers, let's talk about them. All right, so the big twist in the movie is one of the people from El Salvador is this woman, her husband and their son. Their son is the autistic kid. The husband gets killed. The woman gets taken by traffickers and gets put into their system. And she escapes somehow, I think. I wasn't super clear because the scene that happens in was really confusing. But basically, she gets in a car accident, and after the car accident, they have to do facial reconstructive surgery on her. So she goes from looking like, and I'll see if I can find a picture of her to show you, like this to this like Florence Pugh looking supermodel lady. Kind of a stretch, but the bigger stretch is that she goes from being completely unable to defend herself really to being this like next level assassin. And they're like, sometimes when people get brain injuries, they become savants at things. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm not really, that's a little ridiculous. You're just saying, oh, this guy got hit in the head with a frying pan. Now he's he's an Einstein genius level dude. It's a little ridiculous, but it gets a bit more ridiculous. So we find out that the son is being held in a camp, a prison camp somewhere in Mexico, I think it is. And so, Christian Wolf wants to go rescue him because at the end of the movie, they need something to do, and literally there's nothing for them to do. So they're like, we gotta go rescue this kid. They're like, okay, you don't know this kid, you saw a picture of him, I guess, but there's a whole camp of kids. And that's another thing that didn't really make sense about the bad guy's plan, was that he was kidnapping these women and putting them into his system and taking the kids away, and then he just went and put them in a prison camp somewhere, I guess, which I don't really know why he would do that, because he basically tells his little henchman guy to go dispose of the kids, and that's why the ticking clock is there for Christian Wolf and his brother to go rescue him. Braxton, that's his brother's name. So Braxton and Christian go to Mexico and, go rescue the kids. That's basically where this movie ends up eventually. But why wouldn't this guy just do that to me? Isn't it a massive liability for this guy to just have all these kids? Like, I'm not saying, yeah, get rid of the kids, but like, if I was in that guy's shoes and I was already okay with doing something like that, why wouldn't he just do that from the beginning? Like, it doesn't really make sense. But the bigger plot issue is this woman getting in a car accident and then turning into John Wick. Like, that just doesn't work for me as a plot point. But there's one other thing that kind of rubs me bad with this movie, and it's the way they handle the autism. I didn't see this with the autistic person that I watched the original with, but I told them about it, and so they kind of had a very similar reaction of like, that's really stupid and I don't like that. So in the original movie, obviously I mentioned the nonverbal lady, that's all he had. But in this movie, not only do they recast the nonverbal lady with an actress that's like more Hollywood attractive, which I don't know why they did that. Maybe the actress wasn't available. I don't know the whole story there. But now she has a whole like comms center full of autistic kids. And it's like, the autism is a superpower thing. Like, y'all ever seen Predators where the kid like learns an alien language because he's autistic? Like, I kid you not, that happens in that movie. It's absolutely ridiculous. So in this film, Christian Wolf just calls her up and he's like, find this person. And then like, all of a sudden this lady has like 10 kids walk in and they all sit down at computers and they're like doing all this crazy stuff, hacking into all kinds of things, and they manage to find the person. And it's like a rush to see who could do it first, and the kids are competing with each other and stuff. And I'm like, you have this think tank of autistic kids who are, I guess, so intelligent that they can do everything with computers, I guess. I don't know, it took away from it a little bit, because Christian's character was very he was a little quirky, and you liked him because of that. Like, yeah, you could tell he struggled with being emotional and things like that, but it worked in that film. And there's still scenes like that in this movie between him and his brother, because they're like water and oil, but they clearly love each other. It's just Christian doesn't show it the same way that Braxton wishes that he would. And those parts of the movie work. Like, there's a scene It's completely unnecessary, but they go to a bar together and he sees a girl and he actually hits on her a little bit, which Braxton's all excited about. And then it results in a bar fight because the girl is some other dude's woman or whatever. And they get in a little bar fight thing. And it was a fun scene. It didn't really advance the plot at all, but it lets you kind of get to see the brotherly relationship play out. But in the first movie, we had a lot of cutting back to Christian's childhood and explaining all these things about him as a human being, as a person. And this film just didn't have that. It didn't advance his character at all. I mean, I guess you could say it kind of did because he, by the end of the movie, wants to spend time with his brother, but I mean, he kind of wanted to do that in the first film, they just didn't show it. So had they not made a second movie, I would have assumed that they went and met up and had lunch or whatever it was that they were gonna do. But I digress. If you're a fan of the first Accountant movie, like a big fan, you'll probably enjoy this one. I mean, it's not a bad action movie. In fact, I think it's paced better than the original in terms of the action scenes. And if you want to just turn your brain off and watch a popcorn movie, I would say go for it. This one's definitely a turn your brain off kind of film. But I will also say you probably need to see the first one to understand what's happening in this movie, because the movie's kind of predicated on having a prior knowledge of these characters. They don't really do a job of re-establishing them, which, is fair. It is a sequel, but also it's a sequel to a movie that's almost like getting close to 10 years old at this point. So it's kind of a weird decision, in my opinion, to do that, but it is what it is, Other than that, I mean, honestly, I don't think this is one that you need to rush out to the theater to go see. You can wait for streaming, and this is the guy who goes to the theater to see as much as he can. I'm always saying go to the theater, but there's honestly better stuff out right now and better stuff coming out for you to spend your time on. I just don't know that this one's really worth it for you.
Yeah, I think we gotta go get drunk.
That's just my opinion. If you saw The Accountant 2, let me know what your thoughts were down in the comments. Like I mentioned before, if you could give me a like or share, subscribe, comment, all those things, anything helps. I really appreciate it, and I will catch y'all next time.